Hey, somebody get him before he pokes an eye out.
Every person who I've talked to about a Toy Story 4 has said the same thing. They say, oh, but they ended the story so well, I hope they don't mess it up. Now, I have no idea if Toy Story 4 will be or is any good, but that got me thinking, what is the story of these movies? Why did they work together? Now, I think there are a million reasons why Toy Story works. I was in love with these movies when I was a kid before I started philosophically picking apart all the movies I liked. These characters are so fun, and the people who made these movies obviously love this world a whole lot. But I think that one of the reasons that the arc of these three movies is so emotionally resonant with people is because each of them explores a different implication of the same core idea. And that is the idea of a life with purpose. Now, in the world of Toy Story, it's a toy's purpose to be there for their owner, to play with, to love, and to grow up alongside them. And the first Toy Story is a movie about purpose refracted through the prism of ego. The story follows Woody finding a deeper, more settled sense of his purpose through the complete destruction of his ego, more specifically his social dominance and his control of the world around him. When the movie starts, both his leadership in Andy's room and his ability to at least appear in control are entirely unquestioned. When Buzz's novelty unsettles his social dominance, his own actions make him hated, and getting stuck away from Andy's house undermines his control, he's wrecked. It drives him to desperate measures and new lows. However, when the things that he used to pride himself on are stripped away from him, they reveal what he was made for and what he wants most truly, which is not to be the most powerful or the most loved, but simply to be loved at all. It's the dismantling of his ego that makes him appreciate his purpose in Andy's life and appreciate that other toys might have just as important of a role as he does. Toy Story is undeniably Woody's movie, but there's a mirror of this same theme in Buzz's arc. In the beginning of the movie, he truly thinks that he's a space ranger, making him not only slightly egotistical, but delusional. It's only when his delusions of grandeur about himself are shattered that he can appreciate the true purpose assigned to him. Now, this story isn't reinventing the wheel, but being the first computer animated movie is, and the fact that it's at all emotionally relatable, not to mention funny and original, is an absolute miracle. But then there's Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is a perfect sequel, and I'll go as far as to say that it's better than the original. It finds a way to explore a lot of the same themes without retreading any of the same narrative territory, and it's also just way more fun. But ultimately, Toy Story 2 is a story about purpose refracted through the prism of mortality. The movie wastes no time jumping right into the idea that toys don't last forever, and it doesn't back away from the existential panic that dilemma creates. Where the first movie was about just being replaced, the second is about being forgotten entirely. Giving Woody the chance to escape this fate by trading in his purpose for an eternity of lifeless glory in a museum is a really interesting conflict, but the movie's real secret weapon is Jessie. Both the prospector and Jessie try to keep Woody from going back to his life with Andy, but Jessie is unique because she's the only toy in Toy Story who experienced her purpose as a toy to its fullest and lost it. Not because she did anything wrong, but because it was just inevitable. She's not a villain who wants to destroy Woody, but the story of her virtual death makes Woody think less of his own purpose, while you still empathize with her. Jessie's story makes her a compelling character in her own right, but more importantly, it serves as a story by heightening the central conflict with Woody. It makes the fear of his own death become so strong that he chooses to go to the museum even after his friends come to find him. Even after this.
Somewhere in that pat of stuffing is a toy who taught me that life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid. And I traveled all this way to rescue that toy because I believed him.
Well, you wasted your time.
But the movie doesn't let that fear win out. Woody grows by learning that living out your purpose, knowing it will end, or even that you'll be forgotten, is better than living forever without one. Even though Toy Story 3 was released 11 years later, it's almost a direct sequel to Toy Story 2. 2 ends by saying that it's worth living with Andy even if the toy's days with him are numbered, and 3 explores what happens after that number is up by refracting the idea of purpose through the prism of change. At the beginning of Toy Story 3, the toys know that their days of being played with are done, but they all have slightly different reactions to the idea that Andy is done with them altogether. Some think that if Andy's moved on, they should too, but to Woody, going to Sunnyside is a betrayal of loyalty to Andy. Their purpose isn't just to be played with by whoever, but to be Andy's toys, and he wasn't willing to let go of Andy just yet. That makes him a perfect opposite of the movie's villain, Lotso. Lotso doubts the love any child has for any toy because he was once replaced, and because of that, he's bitter towards anyone more loyal to their child than they are to him. He is, in a sense, what the Woody of Toy Story 1 could have become if he had not grown in the ways that he did. The way Lotso sees it, if a purpose doesn't last forever, it doesn't matter at all. Because of the tragedy in his past, he sees the world as cold and indifferent, and toys as plastic waiting to be thrown away. But what Woody and the rest of the toys learn when they finally make it out of Lotso's prison is that sometimes the ending of a purpose doesn't mean that it never meant anything. If Toy Story 2 taught Woody to appreciate his purpose while it's there, Toy Story 3 teaches him that it's okay to let go when it's over, because the end of one can be the beginning of another that's just as meaningful. Toy Story is so much fun. All of the toys are great, and there's so much fun to be had in this world, but I think that these stories have stuck with people because of how we relate to the characters. They make us ask ourselves about who we are and why we matter, why life is precious even if it ends, and why there's hope, even in change. Maybe most importantly, they teach us to think of ourselves and the people around us as beings capable of giving and receiving love, with purpose that we can either neglect or flourish by living into.